Hello. Uh, to to continue on, to continue on with the last video. So far, I started off talking about how I want to separate my emotions from my logical thought, but I didn't specify that I'm leaning towards more logical thought because a good logical argument almost cannot be argued back, or good rational reasoning cannot be denied. One thing that it's tricky for me to talk about. Tricky because I don't know. I have a feeling it might trigger anyone that watches this video. But if you react to what's been said about you, my, if you react with emotions to anything that's been said about you, is if it elicits a negative reaction from you, you put yourself in a state of suffering. It, the base right there is you will and you are responsible for your own suffering. Now, it's not to turn a blind eye, because I talked about blind spots in the previous video. It's not to turn a blind eye to whatever can hurt you. But if you live, if you always react, and then you keep with that reaction without any kind of processing, and processing, if it's like um geez, a problem with somebody else, do your due diligence and learn as much about both sides as you can. Both sides. So separate emotion again, separate emotion. You're in control of how much you suffer. I am in control of how much I suffer, but of course there's some times when I'm suffering and I can't control it. And I'm not gonna sit here and say to you, that's okay. You're strong. I'm strong. Go for it. It's okay. There is times when it's not okay. I think I've, for the most part, been able to separate uh, my, even though I do my best to hide it, I do have emotional thinking, um, well, it's not outburst because I control it, but there's just a urge. The emotion has a mind of its own, and it wants to come out and explode. Especially because I do a lot of uh, sitting back and observing. My mind looks like, you know, a chalkboard or just a board where you have several pictures of items, and then a red yarn, a blue yarn, and a green yarn. And even though to someone who hasn't made that brainstorm right there, it makes perfect sense to me. That's how my mind is. I'm able to process it. I'm able to make sense of that chaos. Where to you, again, it's just chaos. To step back and look at the bigger picture, and then the emotions will come in afterwards. So there is an event that happened where now all of the pieces I've been observing, they fall into place. Because I talked about how I make conclusions up here, but I keep it to myself because it's just a jerk off thing, a jerky thing to do, to act upon those conclusions and then turn out to be wrong. But being able to predict this, I'm like, I have to stay the course. I have to keep doing it this way. And by doing it that way, there is just times that makes me suffer. Because maybe it leads to, or it could lead to someone changing their opinion about me, or I am predicting their opinion of me. Totem pole? Totem pole? It lets me know where I am in that person's list of priorities. I'm lower on the totem pole. I'm not as important as I thought. And that is something that's been happening lately. As I sit here catching up on Cobra Kai, Attack on Titan, I'm thinking about my relationships with people, my current ones, my past ones, and it's like I can't help. It's human nature to compare myself to others. So I'm just going, whoa, okay, well, that's where I am on that person's list of priorities. That's where I am on that person's totem pole of priorities. I'm not as high as I thought I was. And that crushes me because of how it makes me feel. So I'm suffering because of it. Suffering because I can't jump out and say, hey, you're effed up. I should be higher. But then, rational thought, I can't do that. They have every right to put me where they want to put me. I'll think about this more and I'll give you more later.